What's going on, everybody? Sorry for the delay. We got talking a little bit, but guys, I'm super excited because today Dave Moss is joining me. And if you haven't ever heard of Dave Moss, first of all, he's a beautiful human being. But second of all, he's really helped to shape a lot of businesses in our industry, especially some of the top professional wedding photographers and whatnot. He's been able to work with them and get them exponential growth and results. And so over the next few weeks, for all of June, we are going to be connecting with Dave and going live at 2 p.m. And we're just going to be talking about crisis-based marketing, value-based marketing, and we're just going to get into a lot of things that some of you may or may not have thought about to help you kind of get your business going again as COVID is coming to a close. So if you guys are here and you can hear me, let me know in the comments. If you're watching this on a replay, please comment replay. And just let us know where you are, where you're located, and what you photograph at the moment. And we also want to know, can you hear us and can you see us? Because the interwebs has been not kind recently as far as lives go. So just say hi, let us know. All right, I see Michelle. We got one other person in there. And if you guys want us to be able to see your comments, please click the link above this post in the description that allows us to see who is commenting so that I know who I'm talking to. That would be great. Dave, welcome, my man. How's life?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
2020 has been a trip.
Yeah.
But, yeah, all things considered, pretty good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, are you ready to get into this whole thing?
Yeah, man. Stoked about it.
Awesome. So, Dave, just give us a little background on, where you started out from the photography days into you're still shooting now, I believe, right? Into this coaching business. Let's give us the little 5-minute journey.
Sure. Yeah. So 2008, I shot my first wedding. It was my sister's wedding in the Dominican Republic. I had been a street photographer and burgeoning photographer for a little bit of time. I wanted to go into school for photography, but my dad talked me out of it and said, go to engineering, you'll make more money. But I kept shooting. And so my sister they did a destination wedding and I shot that and I loved it, even though it was terrible. I knew nothing. Literally shot at 1600 ISO outside on the beach in the middle of the day. So terrible idea. But it grew from there. And as time went on, I met my now wife, who was also sort of a hobbyist photographer. She was a graphic designer at the time. And 3 months after we started dating, we decided to start a business, as you do. So our business is as old as our relationship pretty much. But we've been shooting weddings together for 11 years now. I think we just capped 300 weddings at the end of last year. And one of the things that was beneficial for us is because I came from an engineering mindset, because I was an engineer for 12 years before starting this, I was always a problem solver. And I realized early days that most of the problems around photography are business problems. Mm-hmm. How do I email? What do I buy? How do I market myself? And so we dove into business really, really early on. The first business book I ever read was E-Myth by Michael Gerber, which is probably still one of the best books I've read on business for small businesses. And so we just grew and grew and grew, and then eventually focused on photography and stopped sucking, and our art got better. But then two years ago, what is it, 2020 now? Yeah, 3 years ago, I took a life coaching course because I wanted to understand people better, thinking that it might help with marketing and just with my life in general. And then that turned into this business coaching path that I'm on now. I hired my own coach, and she said, you should take all of this life coach knowledge you just got and take your, at that point in time, 9 years of business education and smash it together and then go and help people. And it's just sort of blown up since then. We went from shooting 25 to 35 weddings a year to we're down to 8 for next year, just because the coaching has gotten so busy that we can't take on as many weddings. But I want to stay relevant and keep shooting and know what's going on in the world. So yeah, that's the long and short of how I ended up where I am now.
Very cool. Sorry, I'm dealing with quick issues already.
Yeah, no worries.
All right. Well, that's awesome, man. So one of the things that you mentioned that's interesting is that you said you guys got started around 2008. That's on the heels of one of the biggest recessions.
Yeah,
right?
and our recession actually continued a little bit longer up here in Alberta because of the oil and gas industry. Took a long time to sort of climb back out of the recession. And so we started our business in a recession and have been able to weather those since then.
Yeah, and so the other thing that's fascinating is that I believe you mentioned that you hit six figures every year.
Yeah.
So coming out of a recession, you decide it's a great idea to start a business during a recession. And then not only do you start it, but you crush it and you continue to crush it. I think that speaks volumes about the wherewithal that you had and understanding that the shooting aspect and the way that we photograph and the style and all that kind of stuff is secondary to the business. Right.
Absolutely. There's some amazing photographers out there who are broke, and there are some terrible photographers out there who are doing really well in their business. And I think if you can combine the both, that's always when you're going to be best set. But I think, business is the part that so many of us don't spend our time on. We come into this profession because we like to take good pictures, and then someone says, "Hey, you take really good pictures. You should make a go at this." And so we think that the pictures are the commodity and that's everything. And there's so much more to it than that. And we were just lucky to get that mindset really early on.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So let's get into it. Crisis-based marketing. What is it? And what are we going to be covering over the next couple weeks?
Yeah. So crisis-based marketing was born out of a type of marketing, value marketing. Value marketing is essentially not price marketing. Price marketing is when you say, these are my photos and this is how much it costs. And is that good enough? Value marketing instead is saying, hey, this is everything that we offer, and you're actually going to get more out of this than what you're paying for. It's solutions-based marketing, essentially. People need photos. We know that. That's why they hire us as photographers, but often they need a lot more than just photos. They need a guide in this process. They've never hired a professional photographer before. Or if they're, getting married, maybe they need some help with vendors, or they need help with looking good in photos. If you're a family photographer and they're hiring you, maybe they need your help to calm their kids down, or how to put a baby in a basket, or all of these other things. There's so many things that we do beyond just the finished final product of photos. And that's what value marketing is. Crisis marketing is taking that whole model and then realizing as things in the world change, which they've changed so much today, but also just things like recession, you need to market in a different way and solve problems for a different type of client. So, for example, when we started, Alberta, where we live, was still having deep recession in 2008, 2009, 2010. So a lot of our local clients had different problems and maybe not as much money. And so we as a business decided at that point in time, we're going to market for people who are flying in, because we're a destination. We've got the mountains, we have Banff, we have everything else like that. And so rather than focusing entirely on local weddings and Albertans and Canadians who were going out to the Rockies, who didn't have the money to do it at that point in time. Instead, what we wanted to do is focus on people coming from America, people coming from Europe, and so on and so forth. And so we were able to tap into people who had slipped out of the recession, and were able to do that. To put it into modern perspective with COVID, a lot of places, I can't speak for everywhere, but like here, we're not allowed to have any events indoors over 15 people until the end of September. So the scope of weddings has changed. And so the problems that our clients are facing have also changed. And so crisis marketing is understanding that this problem has changed. And so we have to offer a different solution to that problem. So it's just rising to the occasion and being fluid and malleable in your business, because if you can continuously market the same way over and over and over again without responding to the market, you will suffer, in my opinion. Yeah.
I think that's so important to understand. And, with the Art of Six Figures and Facebook ads and, helping not only photographers, but also the vendors in our industry run Facebook ads and successful marketing, we've seen this time and time again. So oftentimes I'll have a photographer that comes to me and they've been in business for 10, 15 years, right? They used to make multiple six figures, and all of a sudden over the last 2 or 3 years, they've literally just watched their business like go slowly downhill. And it's because they're continuing to do what they used to do.
Yeah.
Right. And there's so many things we could talk about, Dave, with all of this. Right. But you have to understand consumer buying process, I think. Right. And that consumer buying process changes based on generation. And so let's take, for instance, the boomer generation. They were a generation that, for the most part, would vote based on not who the person was, but based on if they were Democrat or Republican, right? They would buy based on the fact that they needed a thing. They didn't care who the CEO was. And they just needed something, so they went and got it, right? But now in 2020, and especially millennials, Gen Xers, we see constantly that these people will not buy, right, from a company because of the CEO is an idiot, right? Or whatever else, right? And so there's so much more to take into account when we think of the big picture, and when we tie this all back into this crisis management marketing, like things have changed clearly. Like the world is on hold, right? We've got all kinds of different things happening in the world right now, and for us to think that we can just continue to do what we did before and believe that that's going to continue to drive the same results is just kind of silly.
Yeah, it's entirely silly. And I think it's also doing a huge disservice to our clients, because I think, humans are emotional people, and weddings are very emotional events. Getting your boudoir photos taken can be emotional. Like all of these things, when it comes around photography, we're a luxury product that is tying into an emotional product. And I think a lot of our clients are hoping for the best. They're hoping that things are just going to continue the way that they are, but realistically, they're not following all the news. They're not checking up to see what the rules of events are or anything else like that, but we are. So if we can step in as the guide and say, hey, things are changing, and this is how we're going to respond to this change to help you out, then the client is going to be even more likely to buy. Like you talk about generational purchasing habits, like for Gen Xers and millennials, it's experience based more than anything else like that. They want to have a good experience. They want to have a good relationship with the business and everything else like that. So if you can show up in that way, especially with everything that's going on, you're more likely to make a sale or hold on to a customer. When all of this COVID stuff happened, I wrote up an email to every single one of our 2020 clients on March 19th. So 2 days essentially after Canada said, hey, we might have to go to stay in place. Things are going to be changing. Mm-hmm. I sent an email out to every single person on our client list for this year and said, this is how we're going to respond to it as a business to help you out. Like, this is how you can change your date. This is how you can change the scope of your event. This is what our contracts say, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then I went on and shared that email template with thousands of photographers, because everybody was saying, I'm getting all of these emails with panic and fear of my clients. They don't know what's going on. What do I do? And I said, just be the expert. Even if your information is wrong, it's better to show up and say, hey, this is what's going on. And then, 2 or 3 days later, be like, sorry, I was wrong about that. This is how we're going to do, than to just go radio silent.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I love what you said about the experience. Like, people want an experience these days, right? And anybody that's in this group that has had a call with me understands how much we drive this point home, because I do website critiques, around once a month in here. And later on in June, Dave is actually going to be doing website critiques from the mindset of what we're talking about now. He's going to be kind of digging into a few of your websites and showing you exactly what needs to change so that you can adapt to this crisis marketing and the different, craziness that's happening in our world right now. But the experience is so different. And I tell this to people all the time. I say, if you and I, Dave, were to open up a burger shop right next to each other, right? Mm-hmm. And your burger shop was normal burgers, but at my burger shop, I had a greeter that when you walked in the front door, they told you where all the food came from, locally sourced farms that week, and also let you know that 10% of your purchase was going to go back to those farms. No millennial will ever eat a burger at your place, and my burgers can be probably $5 to $7 more expensive. And all the people, millennials, Gen Xers, will come to my place over yours every time because they're giving back. There's an experience that happens there, right? And even though it's a minute experience, it's a different experience than walking into your shop, right? And so even, some of the things that we need to be doing are not massive changes sometimes. Sometimes it's just subtle changes. It's just, reading the room, right?
Yeah.
And we're having a lot of trouble reading the room right now, right, in the world. But at the end of the day, I feel like, the experience drives those results as far as the client experience being great. And then they're going to tell a ton more people about it,
Exactly.
and that's going to bring in that extra revenue that you need, those extra clients and all that kind of stuff. And it's going to set the tone for who you are in your community,
Yeah, well, and I mean, using that burger shop analogy, I see so many restaurants that do things like that, but then they don't tell their clients that they're doing those sorts of things. And I think it's a rampant problem in the wedding photography world. Is we often are providing so much value to our clients. We know exactly what this process is going to be like, what the experience is going to be like. We know how much we're going to help these people, but then we never tell them that we're doing these things. And so we are just as transactional as the burger shop next door, who is just making burgers and selling them to you for $5 a patty, if we're not saying, hey, we're doing all of these things and guiding them through that process.
Yeah.
I
love that. So in your experience, you've coached a lot of bigger names in this industry. I'm assuming most of that happened outside of COVID, but do you have active people that you're working through now through COVID? And if you do, what would be like the number one thing you're telling them right now?
Yeah, so I have 28 active clients right now that I'm working with all over the States, Canada, and Europe. And they're all different types of businesses, family or wedding or elopement, destination. And the main thing that I'm telling all of them is essentially this message of walk your clients through what it is that you're doing, but also respond to how the world is a different place. So a couple examples. One, I have a boudoir photographer that is based out of a small town here in Alberta, who was worried because she shoots studio based and you can't have people in your studio, or you couldn't until 4 days ago when we had our phase 1 opening. And so she didn't know what she was going to do. Photographers were allowed to continue working as long as we maintained social distancing rules and it was done outside. And so I talked to her about, hey, you live in a rural area with lots of forests and things like that. Do you have access to some private land where you can go and photograph people in the woods? And she was like, oh yeah, I totally do. And I said, okay, great. Grab a friend, go take 2 or 3 photos out there, and then put something on your homepage saying, if you want to get photos done right now, this is the way that we were able to do it. And she was able to book 15 shoots doing that. Now with what's going on with the protests and riots, she wants to again adjust her marketing and be able to respond and help out and have a deal towards people of color. And so we set up a nomination program through her business that's right on her homepage right away, guiding people through. It's like, you can still, no matter who you are, you can still get photos done, but you can also nominate a person of color, an Indigenous person, anybody who you might be able to help out. She's also added in Pride because it's Pride this month as well. And you can nominate these people and I will do a free shoot for them. So she's creating buzz around her business while responding to sort of the collective troubles that are going on in the world. Different story, photographer on the East Coast, wedding photographer who conveniently already wanted to change from, sort of large ballroom golf course style weddings to more intimate backyard types of weddings. I say convenient because realistically in her market and in a lot of markets, those are going to be the types of weddings that people are going to be booking for the foreseeable future. This time next year, sure, you can probably have your 150 person wedding at a golf course again. But people who are looking to book right now are going to be booking based upon, societal understanding of the world. And so they're going to be looking for more backyard weddings. And so we went back through all of her archives of photos and found any photo that was representative or could be representative of an intimate wedding or a backyard wedding or something smaller to that. And we adjusted her portfolio and changed her portfolio, modified her pricing packages, created this new thing for smaller weddings, and changed a lot of the copy on her homepage, or in the process of changing a lot of the copy on her homepage to point towards these types of weddings and say, hey, I'm going to be the expert for a small wedding. So much so that we changed the PDF freebie, or added a PDF freebie. She didn't have one before, but her giveaway, her transactional call to action on our website now is, these are the 5 best ways to throw an amazing backyard wedding. So she's helping people out right through that entire process. So there are definite, regardless of the type of business that you're running, there are ways that you can respond to what's going on right there and right now.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think those are great recommendations, and we've seen similar things where I want to say it was in the Do More community that sort of pioneered the like Zoom webcam sessions, right? And like that was such a cool thing to see come out, right? Because everyone's freaking out, like, oh my God, I can't do anything. And then it's the difference between what I was doing up until now, stopped working and freaking out. And then instead of freaking out, going, okay, hey, let me take a deep breath for a second. There's got to be a way, right? In this world in 2020, with technology the way that it is, there's got to be a way. And somebody figured it out. I don't remember who the exact person was. But then from there, you see the ability to help give back through the photo shoots as well, right? And so people are doing, donations for food banks, first responders, buy one, get one. If you buy one, then you get to gift one to a first responder. Like all of this stuff is really cool to see because you're able to keep your business alive, but you're also able to give back. And I think that that's a huge piece that people, forget. Like as photographers, and this is a little bit of a side note, but as photographers, people just think we're all broke, right? Like the world just goes, oh, you're a photographer. Like I've had people in networking meetings when I introduce myself and say I'm a photographer, just like turn around and walk away, right? But at the end of the day, to be able to show even kids in this world that photography can be a real career, and being able to show them through that, not only can you make money at it, but you can actually impact the world through it. I think that's what is really cool. And I think people are starting to realize that we're not just a bunch of creatives that want to do our own thing and be creative in our own way, but that we can actually use our creativity and our skill set in photography to impact this world. And I love that.
Yeah, I mean, creative lateral thinking is the cornerstone of entrepreneurship, and photographers and creatives have it in spades. We just forget to apply that to our business. I mean, see a need, fill a need is essentially the basis of entrepreneurship. So right now there's lots of needs. Like I was talking to a photographer in Kansas City, and they were saying, what do I do when, like, how can I let people know that I'm going to be there when the world opens back up again? And I'm like, well, everybody misses their family and their friends right now. So it's very likely that when things open back up again, there's going to be a lot of family reunions. And he was a photographer, already shot a lot of family reunions. And I said, put out a Mother's Day special. It says, good for one family, free family reunion, and in the future and stuff like that, and just sell it for $450. And they were able to pay their mortgage for the next 6 months by selling gift cards on Mother's Day. Because see a need. People miss people. People understand more now than ever how important the relationships and family and everything is to us, because we've all been trapped in our own homes. And so that's a need that is going to need to be filled. And so it's just like thinking creatively around that way. You might not be able to do those shoots right now, but you can set yourself up to do them in the future. Yeah. Or like with the Zoom things, or with what Sam Hurd was doing with backyard weddings, and then just bringing an iPhone and a GoPro and everything else like that and live streaming the weddings. And so many different ways that we can rise to this occasion.
Yeah, and I think that with the weddings specifically, the restrictions, I'm assuming, will eventually be lifted, but the fear that is left in people's hearts is going to be limiting as well. And so you may see grandparents not attending, right, or people that could be more exposed to sicknesses and stuff like that, especially because we don't have a vaccine or cure yet, right? And I was telling my wife, I was like, man, I think my new venture is going to be personal brand photography, partnered with the fact that I can run all the ads for them, right? But like on top of that, just kind of like figure out a way that I can sort of just get myself into a new niche, And I think that the cool thing is that the whole world's still on pause, and it's been paused for months now. And so we do have the time for the most part to be able to do that. And obviously we all have kids. We have, well, not all of us have kids, but a lot of us that have kids, it makes it a lot more difficult. So time management becomes an issue. And, when can I do this without my kid running in the door? Right. But at the end of the day, there's definitely time that can be found for the most part. And I would encourage everybody to take advantage of that time and really sort of step back from your business and look around, because when you hear something, then you just go and act on it. Typically you regret it. Take some time, think it over, pull yourself back, start to learn how to run your business from the outside in rather than running it from the inside, and just not like having blinders on to everything else that's going on, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I highly recommend to all of my clients, it's like reach out to people who are hiring you right now, who may be on pause or whatnot, and ask them what problems they're facing. Ask them what questions that they have, because then you're looking at it from an outside perspective as well. Like we often ask our industry friends, hey, what are you doing? What's going on here? But we're often looking at it all from the same perspective, not from the buyer's perspective. So just reach out and ask the buyer, like, how can I help you? What would be a better service? What would be a new service that would be beneficial to you at this time?
Yeah, let's touch on that for a second, because that's a really important point. I think a lot of times when I bring up the fact that people are like, well, I don't know what to do, right? Or I don't know who my client avatar is. I'm like, okay, well, have you worked with people before? Yeah. Okay. Well, let's start there. You got 100 people you worked with in the past. Great. Go through and figure out who spent the most money with you, who also gave you the most interaction, right? It was easy to work with them. Who referred you the most, right? Who's publicly posting on their profile and not editing your photos first and, you know, removing your watermark or whatever, right? But taking a look, right? And if there's 25 of them that met that and spent the ideal amount of money that you needed them to make, then call them. Right. And because you should be having some type of relationship with these people, because we're supposed to be creating experience anyway. Right. And so if you have that relationship, it should have started before you ever did their session or their wedding or anything like that. So you should know them and be able to have that sort of rapport to call them up and be like, hey, times are crazy right now. I didn't know if I could just ask you a couple questions. You're probably sitting at home doing nothing just like me. Right. So let me explore that. Like, why did you book with me?
Yeah.
Why me? Right? That's a great question to ask. And you're going to get some insight. Some people are going to say, because, you know, my Uncle Joe sent it. Some people are going to say, I saw your Facebook ad. So, you know, there's going to be a whole huge wide variety of different reasons. And I think that that's going to help you to be able to go, oh, okay. So what associations do you belong to in that area? Right? Are you a yacht club member? Are you, a member of a spa or a massage, place or something like that? And then being able to tie in the similarities between those 25 people, right? And going, oh, look at that. They all spend their time on the weekends doing this, or they all do this, or they all shop at this one store, right? And I think that what you said is so important, because so many times we post the picture that we believe everyone should love because we love it the most, but it doesn't resonate with the audience at all, right? Or we come up with the copy that we think is going to be the best, and then we put it out there and nobody clicks on our ad, or nobody does anything, no interaction, nobody reads the blog, right? And so it's a lack of perspective and perception typically, and just a lack of understanding of who you're actually trying to reach. So to summarize or to pivot, what in those sense and in that context, are you seeing people have success with, or what are you telling people to pivot to in this time?
A couple of different things. I wanted to touch about one last thing about what you just said, because I love doing that exercise with my clients. And one of the things that I love to have them do is lean on the experts. So we become Facebook or Instagram friends with a lot of these, clients, these ideal clients. And I always recommend go and look at all of the accounts that they're following and look for businesses. So like, for example, a lot of our clients, our ideal clients for our wedding business, which is like an outdoor adventure-based wedding business, they're following people like companies like REI and Lululemon and Patagonia and things like that. And I say, go and look at those companies and see how they're advertising to these people. Because if our ideal clients love these businesses, these guys are spending millions or billions of dollars on their advertising and marketing budgets. So see how they're advertising to them, and then see if there's ways that you can implement that ad copy or those principles into what it is that you're doing for marketing.
That is super smart, bro. Everybody that just heard that right now, you have to understand how impactful that was, because there are always businesses that are competing for the same client, even though those companies are not selling the same thing, right? And I think it's super important, because we're big on reconnaissance work, right? At the Art of Six Figures. And so it's like, go out, find the people on Facebook, see where they're working, see where they're living, see where they're working, when they're playing, and where they're spending their time, where they're spending their money. And so often you can find, oh, look, Pier 1 Imports is advertising to get their specific client in this way. Are they even around anymore, by the way? I don't even know.
No idea.
I think I saw they went out of business or something. But anyway, right. But tying that back and going, oh, look, that messaging that they're using in their ad is working, right? And in case anybody doesn't know, you can actually see what ads any business is running on Facebook by going to their actual business Facebook page. And there's a little button on the left-hand side that is like, I forget what it says exactly, but it basically allows you to click and see
active ads or something like
that. Yeah, active ads or, timeline history or something like that. So you can actually see the ads they're running, guys. That is amazing because some of those companies may have paid copywriters like tens of thousands of dollars to be able to write that copy, and you can get a better idea of what you need to be saying by looking at it, right? And then you can go and explore. One of my big influences of marketing is Russell Brunson, and he teaches this thing called funnel hacking, right? Where you go and you see somebody else's Facebook ad, and so you click on it and you go through it and you look at the landing page you landed on. What did the ad say? What were they asking you to do? After you've done that thing, where did they send you from there, right? And a lot of times, at least for me, that's how I was woke up to the fact that what is funnel marketing and how does it work and why does it work? So I would encourage you guys, what they just said is brilliant. Go and look at some of these other businesses that these people follow because it can be key.
Yeah, it's unbelievable how well it works. When we started changing, because like I said, Patagonia is a big thing that our clients tend to follow as an outfitting company. And when I started going and looking at Patagonia's websites and Patagonia's ads and things like that, and it was all experience-based and very rarely talked about the final product. It wasn't saying, come and buy this specific jacket or this sleeping bag or these shoes. It was just like, hey, go climb a mountain, go surf, go do these things because that's what you love to do. And so when we started putting copy like that on our website and saying, it's like, this is the experience that you're going to have in the mountains when you hire us and work with us, the amount of response that we got from that was huge. So
very cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, I love that. So we're at about 30 minutes now. Next week, we are going to be talking about solving client problems. And so give us a little teaser as far as what that means, what that looks like.
Yeah. So I would love for anybody who watches this video to go ahead and just leave a comment in the video about where you're based and what your primary shoot type is. So just pick one, whatever makes you the most money. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and pick a handful of those, probably, 5 to 10, something like that. And I'm going to write you some crisis-based marketing copy that would make sense to have on the header or at least above the fold on your website, or to put into a Facebook ad, or to have somewhere or everywhere in your business that basically says, this is how we're responding to the world as it is right now in regards to our type of photography. Because that type of messaging, like what I was mentioning earlier, it's no good if you're giving 10% back to the farms if you're not telling anybody about it. Mm-hmm. You need to talk to people about why you're the expert, how you empathize with the problem that you're having, and then how you're going to solve that problem. So I would love to see just a bunch of different types of photography in different markets, and I'll do my own research and I'll go look up your markets and things like that, and then I'm going to put together some simple marketing copy that you guys could use on your websites or in your marketing to respond to that.
Well, that's super generous, man. So guys, if you just missed what he just said, he said, post your websites below in the comments, because he's going to go through and pick a few of your websites and go through and analyze them and do the research for you so that he can actually help you come up with the correct type of copy that you would need to, that you could utilize right now. All right. So that is a really generous thing. So I'm hoping that we see a ton of comments with a ton of websites underneath it here. Don't just tell us where you're from and what you photograph. Also put your website in there just so that he has some context to be able, and he doesn't have to go and look for it. So Maggie and Michelle, I see you guys have already posted where you're from and what you photograph, but make sure you put your website in there as well. And join us next week on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and every other Tuesday all the rest of the Tuesdays in June as well, because next week we're going to go over solving client problems. Dave's going to go through a few of your websites. And then the following week, we're actually going to do website critiques, where he's actually going to go through another handful of your websites to identify what can change now so that you can start impacting your potential clients right now during COVID and as we come out of it. Dave, I appreciate you coming on and talking to us about this stuff. I think it's super important. Let us know and let everybody that's viewing know where they can find more information about you.
Yeah. So my coaching website is Dave Moss Coaching. Nice and simple. I do one-on-one coaching with photographers and any type of creatives. My programs are long. They're 6 months or a year at a minimum. It's because I don't believe in silver or magic bullets. You know, things take time. The background on my phone says hard work beats talent, and I fully believe in that. Beyond that, I have a Facebook group called Business as an Adventure where we do some free education, much like yourself. Then Dave Moss Coach on Instagram, or Business as an Adventure on Instagram as well. Although I'm terrible at Instagram.
Well, go ahead and type those into the chat while we're still live here. The Facebook group and your website, just so that people can go and check it out. But guys, this is going to be a really cool series. I was pumped about it, and the fact that Dave is willing to give us his time over the next couple weeks is amazing. If you have questions after you've watched this video, please comment with those as well. And if there's something that sparked in you, something that maybe you got an aha moment from, what I want you to do is post your own post in the group with that aha moment, just so that we can highlight that and that people can start a discussion on some of these things so that we can help each other. All right. Cool. Dave, you got those links in there?
They should be in there now.
All right. Well, Dave, thanks again for joining me, and I will see you next week.
Yeah, stoked for it, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.